Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. It's May 20th, 2025. And we're studying Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3, entitled Karma Yoga. We're here in text 43. Thank you. We're here with Simon, visiting from Switzerland, and Bhakti Rosa, and online there's Rukmini. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Evam Bude Param Budva Samstabhya Atmanam Atmana Jahi Shatum Mahabaho Kamarupam Darasadam. Now we'll do one line at a time responsively. Evam Bude Param Budva Samstabhyatmanam Atmanam Jahisha Chu Mahabaho Kamarupam Darasadam Evam Bude Param Budva Samstabhyatmanam Atmana Jahisha Chu Mahabaho Kamarupam Darasadam Evam Bude Param Budva Samstabhyatmanam Atmana Jahisha Chu Mahabaho Kamarupam Darasadam
Evam Bude Param Budva.
Evam Bude Param Budva
Samstabhya Manam Atmana
Samstabhyatmanam Atmana
Jahishtrajam Mahabaho
Jahishatrum Mahabaho
Emam Rupam Darusadam
Kamarupam Darasadam. If you'd like to try.
Evam Bude Param Budva.
Evam Bude Param Budva
Samatspadyatmanam Atmana
Samstabhyatmanam Atmana
Jahisatrum Mahabaho
Jahishatrum Mahabaho
Kamarupam Durasadam
Kamarupam Darasadam. Now we'll do the word meanings responsively. Evam. Thus. Budhe. Of intelligence. Param. Superior. Budva. So knowing. Samstabhya. By studying. Atmanam. The mind. Atmana. By deliberate intelligence. Jahi. Conquer. Shatrum. The enemy. Mahabaho. Almighty armed one. Kamarupam. The form of lust. Darasadam. Formidable. Translation. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, One should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directive to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness as the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overlording and sense gratification are the greatest enemies of the conditioned soul, but by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind, by steady intelligence directed toward one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of karma yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. I'll recite a few more mantras to continue to invoke auspiciousness in our gathering. Om Anganatimmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3, Text 43. Evam Bude Prambhutva Samstapyat Manmatmana Jahi Shatru Mahabahu Kamarupa Darasadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna. So, yeah, this morning, right before we chanted the japa, we read from Srila Prabhupada his explanation of what is this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra from the Happening album, December 1966. And he talks, what's talked about here, he talks about there's different levels of platforms of consciousness. So there's the sensory platform, mental platform, intellectual platform. And we are spirit souls. We're not the material body. We're not the mind. As an analogy, just like we're not the hardware of the computer. We're not the software either. We're the operator of the computer. So this is like the hardware, this stuff. And then software, that's subtle matter. Things like mind, intellect, material ego. It's subtle matter, but it's still matter. So the operator of the computer, that's that irreducible quantum of consciousness that inhabits the body, that animates the body. And so we are that atomic unit of sentience that gives life to the body. I mean, the body's actually made of dead elements, just like the car is made of dead elements. It's always dead. The body's dead. Oh, we have died. Well, the soul never dies, and the body's always dead. Antavanti me deha nichi sukta suririna anasino prameyasya kastidyujasva bharata. It's only the it's only the material, only the material body is changing, and it's always changing from childhood to youth to old age, and there's a particular change we call death. But just like the car is made of metal, rubber, and plastic, it's dead stuff, but it appears alive when there's a driver inside. So because the soul's inside, the body appears alive. So we use the body. Okay, and so Prabhupada spoke about that if in what we read this morning and what we're reading here, so if we're misidentifying the spiritual eternal self that we are with the temporary dead body, dukkhaya mashashvatam, then whatever else we do, it's like we're starting with, we might have 10 steps to an equation, but if we start with the wrong numbers, it's not going to come out. It's not going to come out. So whatever else we do, we're going to be in anxiety. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshatasya. To the degree that we misidentify the eternal spirit self with the temporary body, we're going to be in anxiety, stress, and we're going to be kamarupa darasadam. We're going to be controlled by lust. And because then we're going to be feeling all empty inside and unfulfilled. And then just the sense objects, it's described earlier in Bhagavad Gita, dhyayato vishyam pumsam sagaste shupajayate sangatsantayate kama kamat krodo vijayate. All contemplating the objects of the senses, and that can be just like an overt object in the senses, or it can be a subtle object of the senses, like I want this respect. I want to be adored by this person. I want to be popular in this group. It's subtle material desire. Okay. While contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment to them. From attachment comes lust. Lust means I don't want this. I need it. I have to have it. Where there's lust, there's no possibility of empathy. I don't care what others think or their feelings. I just have to have this. When? Now. Of course, in a more subtle stage of lust, we might show that we're caring about others to manipulate them to have our lusty desires fulfilled in some sort of business arrangement. So while contemplating the object of the senses, one develops attachment to them. From attachment comes lust, and when lust is frustrated, we become enraged and angry. And that's all the psychology. There's more valid psychology in just a few verses of Bhagavad Gita than we'll find in the entire university psychology library department. It's actually true. I can say that I have degrees in these things. So it's true. And yeah. So, and it's described elsewhere also. Kama upena kontea dusperena nalena cha. That this lust, even if it's so-called satisfied, we're never satisfied. It's like a fire. We can pour fuel on a fire, and maybe it's the weight of the fuel, puts the fire down temporarily, but then it just inflames. So it's always chasing that carrot on the stick, chasing that carrot on the stick. So this whole section of Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna asking a question to Krishna, and he asked the question, why do we do things we don't want to do? Why do we do things we know are stupid? I don't know if anyone can relate to that. Maybe we can search deep into our life and find a time we found like, why did I do that? That was so foolish. I just got myself into trouble. Probably all 8.3 billion people on the surface of the planet I can relate to that. So this isn't just some abstract philosophy. This is very relevant. And Krishna answers, Kamesha Krodesha Rajguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapatma Vijayam Ihamarina. He says it's lust. It's lust, going from the lower modes of nature, rajas and tamas, and transforming into anger. So I can feel, oh, that's kind of like a desperate, hopeful situation. It is still. Bhagavad Gita, it's giving a very optimistic. It's giving a process through which we can liberate ourselves from the prison of lust. It's giving this process, and this process includes and is founded on self-realization, realizing I'm not the senses, I'm not the eyes, I'm not the ears, I'm not the belly, I'm not the tongue. Vachravegam manasakrodagavegam, jivavegam udarapastavegam, etanvegam yovisahitadira, sarvam apimam pitabim sasisha. That's from the Nectar of Instruction. And it describes a true spiritual teacher is one who's able to control the force of speech, the force of mind, force of anger, and the force of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. That's the foundational qualifications for a true spiritual teacher. Otherwise, we're just slaves of our senses, rather than being a Goswami, using our senses to serve spiritual purpose. So, okay. And so it talks about, so to control the lower self, and the material senses and mind by the higher self. The higher self is the spirit soul in connection with Supreme Spirit, in connection with God in the heart, in connecting with higher intelligence. And then that higher intelligence, so in the conditioned stage of existence, we tend to not be so connected with that higher intelligence. So where can we find that higher intelligence? And it's here. It's in authoritative literatures. It's in every vibration from Srila Prabhupada. So the super soul, or the Paramatma, the God in the heart, that's called Chaitya Guru. And then the pure devotee of God, the pure devotee of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, or Jesus, a pure devotee of Krishna, that's the external representation of that wise guidance of God in the heart. Because internally, we might sometimes be hearing that highest intelligence speaking to us, but we might also be hearing the monkey mind. We might also be hearing the material ego, who just wants to continually entrap us in illusion. Right? There's the deepest voice and there's the loudest voice. So the loudest voice, not necessarily the deepest voice. We can relate to that. So spiritual strength means we're taking shelter in spirit. We're taking shelter. So this process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, the source book of all yoga, that's Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, all the yogas, this is the authoritative source. And Bhagavad Gita, so it describes many paths. But it's not just some jumble mishmash. There's this path, there's this path. All the paths lead to Bhakti Yoga. It's not my opinion, it's Bhagavad Gita. Yad karoshi yad ashnasi yad juhosi dadasi yad yat tapasyasi kontea mat kushva tatkusha madarpana. Karma Yoga culminates in full loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bahunam janate ganvanam bhajate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudulabha. The goal of all sincere intellectual activity, jnana, is to come to surrender to God with full devotion, so that the soul surrenders to the super soul with full devotion. So this is not a process of elimination. I was just speaking to someone recently, yesterday, and she was speaking about, she does some meditation. So I said, well, what do you meditate on? What's the goal of your meditation? It really wasn't clear. I said, well, what's the effect of your meditation? She was actually saying, well, she wasn't getting much out of it because so let's describe. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we're not going to give up our lower lusty tastes unless we have a higher taste to replace it with. Basic example given, it's like if the child's being destructive, the parents say, just sit in the corner, just sit there, just sit in the corner, just don't do anything. So the child can sit in the corner and do nothing, maybe for 5 seconds, maximum 10 seconds, maximum. Then the child's going to need to do the destructive thing again, because its nature is to be active. So higher intelligence parenting is not telling the child to sit in the corner. Higher intelligence parenting, give the child something constructive and healthy and life enriching. That's more fun than the destructive thing. Then after a few moments, the child doesn't even think about the destructive thing because it's having so much fun doing the constructive thing. That's higher intelligence parenting. So the child represents our senses and material mind, like that. So we can say, okay, we can tell our senses, and some approaches to spiritual life, just shut down the senses, eliminate the senses, tell the senses to do nothing. Okay. I mean, way back, this goes back well over 40 years. I went to some place and the instructor, I only went there once because it didn't work for me. But the instructor was like, close your eyes and rid your mind of all thoughts. I was like, okay. So I found I was able to rid my mind of all thoughts for like 5 seconds. And I thought of food and stuff like that. So it's just like, I've got a very active mind. I've got a very active mind. So it's kind of like, just don't think, don't think of that correspondence. Don't think of sex. Don't think of, no, be spiritual. Whatever you do, don't think of that pink elephant flying to the moon. No, don't. I told you not to. So it's kind of like, it's not going to work because the nature of the mind, the nature of the senses is to be active, to be engaged. So just to shut them down will be a source of frustration in the name of spiritual life. It'll be very artificial. So in Krishna consciousness, it's positively engaging the mind, the senses, in spiritual form, spiritual music. We talked about this morning, spiritual meditation, where we engage the sense of the tongue and the lips and the voice, and in chanting spiritual vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We engage the sense of hearing. A few minutes ago, we were in kirtan. We engaged the whole body in dancing and music. Oh, that's material. No. So that's spiritual intelligence, to be able to make the distinction between spiritual communication and material communication. Material communication means the vibration further entangles us in the illusion that we are this body, and further entangles other in that illusion. It alienates the self from the self. Spiritual form, spiritual communication, spiritual dancing, spiritual vibration, spiritual food. Eating is material. No, there's spiritual food. It's called prasadam. Spiritual food, then it purifies our existence and moves us to get that higher taste, So that's what Srila Prabhupada gave us. Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual teacher, he gave us a whole process to engage our whole life up to 24 hours per day if we want. To engage our whole life and engage in it, not to deny the senses, but to engage the senses spiritually, so that we get such a higher taste of the soul, self-satisfied, the soul shining brightly. We use that analogy a lot. The diamond, the diamond soul. Saint Teresa of Avila, one of her books is called The Interior Castle. And the whole book is based on that metaphor, that the soul is a diamond, and then there's like 7 layers, and in the innermost recesses of the diamond, it's the soul's pure devotional attitude towards God. Okay, so the soul's a diamond, and so a diamond's always strong and bright and effulgent and shining, but to different degrees, we've allowed the diamond to be covered by lust. It may be subtle, maybe gross, like that. So this is a process, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, hearing and chanting the names of the divine, and then more and more we get the higher taste, and we don't even think about all that stuff that gets us into trouble and causes more misery than happiness. And so, all of our Sophato programs and all of those processes, as you may have noticed, I get joy and fulfillment by developing and facilitating transformational processes. Maybe some of you have noticed that. It's like something I like to do. And so I do it. I've been doing it since the 1970s. It's a long time. And it's my interest is not intrinsically about just collecting communication tools or processes, but a communication-based approach to self-realization. So all the transformational processes are intended to support us to peel the layers of illusion and the masks for the self to turn towards itself in self-realization, and to realize who we are as that shining diamond, spirit soul, eternal spirit soul, servant of God, and to get that higher taste. Oh, yeah. So hundreds and hundreds of transformational processes and communication processes, and that I'm involved in, we develop, we facilitate. And for sure, by far the most powerful transformational process I know is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. and there's not a close second. There's not a close second, and so this is, yeah, for about 42 years, this chanting this timeless mantra has been the main cornerstone of my spiritual life, my self-realization process, and everything from all, whether it's the foundational seminar, advanced seminar, coach training, everything has emanated from reading Srila Prabhupada's books. That's the other main cornerstone for me, reading Srila Prabhupada's books and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then to the extent that I'm sincere and rigorous in my process, I experience the truth that's here, that I experience freedom from lust, material anger, greed, envy, jealousy, insecurity. So I have enough experience to say 100% the process powerfully works. I wish I was more surrendered and sincere in the process, and like that. So this text, this is the final text of chapter 3. It reads, Evam Bude Param Budva Samstapyat Manamatmana Jahi Shatrun Mahabaho Kamarupam Darasadam. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence. One should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna. Thanks for giving your power of hearing to Bhagavad Gita. At this time, if anyone would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions, I welcome that.
I have a question
Simon.
regarding the psychology. You made like a connection with psychology with your degree, and that's what's written there in this chapter is like can be connected to psychology, if I understood it correctly.
Yes.
And I've lately read books of Alfred Adler.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Do you know him?
Yes, yeah, he's one of the founding fathers of modern psychology, Adler, yeah.
And before you said that's a connection, I was thinking about Adler, and then you said
Interesting.
there is this connection.
Yeah.
And from all the psychologists I've read so far, it's like this philosophy in psychology that resonates the most with me.
Adler, Adlerian, okay. It's okay. Yeah, actually, it was probably back in the late 70s, early 80s, since I was directly reading Alfred Adler, so I haven't done so much kind of, but I know he has like a spiritual basis, and I'm reminded of a statement about modern psychology. It's modern psychology, first it lost its soul, then it lost its consciousness, and then it lost its mind altogether. So if we unpack that, if we look at the history, so a lot of approaches to modern psychology based on philosophies of reductionism, determinism, and being mechanistic, so they take away the soul. And then as things progressed or devolved, depending on our viewpoint, then the philosophies of psychology lost its consciousness. Then when we get into like the strict behaviorism, then there's even no such thing as mind. It's just robotic. It's just a robotic reactivity like that. So with such philosophies at the basis, what choice is there except to be like really depressed and to be in despair? And yeah, here we got some medication to help you. So from what I remember of Adlerian psychology, he's endeavoring to give a spiritual basis. I'll be glad to hear anything else you want to share. What is it that you find appealing in Adlerian psychology?
So you also brought this example with the child.
Yeah.
With the parent saying you have to go into the corner and be quiet. He's doing the opposite. Like he's saying, like, as you said, like like kind of motivating isn't the right English word, but like in German it's Ermutigung. I don't know the English word for that,
Yeah.
but it's like making the child like have the conviction that he can do things by himself
Yeah,
in a good way.
right.
I would say.
In a positive way. He can act autonomously in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's what I like about him. He's trying to give kind of a positive shape
Positive, yeah.
into it.
Thanks for sharing that. I haven't thought about Alfred Adler.
Yeah.
Alfred. I haven't thought about him in a while, like a long time. So thanks for sharing. But what I read many decades ago, I like. Yeah, and that's so consistent with what we're talking about here, what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. So this bhakti yoga, it's about joyfully engaging the senses, and again, because like if we have an approach to spiritual life where the idea, well, in the ultimate, everything is void, or just in the ultimate, because it's one thing to realize the illusion of material lust and trying to be happy. Okay, but what do we positively do? And the most complete answer to what do we positively do to be happy, that comes in bhakti. How do we positively engage the child and the senses? So thanks for that connection with Alfred Adler. Hare Krishna. Anything else?
Something conversationally comes up for me.
Yeah.
When you talked about the difference between accumulating tools for communication versus I guess engaging ourselves spiritually. It makes me think. The first thing that came up was a question of how to discern in the moment when you're engaging with material, whether or not it's just kind of a mindless accumulation,
Yeah.
or if it's an attempt to engage oneself at a deeper level. And I don't know the answer to that exactly, but another thing that comes to mind that I've seen as a pattern within our culture and our society is that any well-placed venture can be debased, removed from its good foundation if it's not well applied.
Yeah.
And then people in this application basically give it a bad name, and then it fails to get traction in a larger level, which can be a shame, because again, there's many really good ventures out there that kind of they lose that way. Anyway.
Well, thanks for that.
Thanks
for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. So right. That's so kind of like, that's why I endeavor, like if I'm hosting or leading a program based on Bhagavad Gita as it is, chanting Hare Krishna, then I consider I'm representing Srila Prabhupada. I'm representing this. I'm representing this most sublime tradition. And so like I have responsibility with my behavior to represent in a respectful way, to represent an inspiring way. And so there's definitely that. And so, so this process is Namo Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Punashuro Nichimukto Binan Panamanaminu. It's pure and it's complete. It's eternal, it's liberating, it's freeing. The process is pure. That doesn't necessarily mean that the consciousness with which we're approaching the process is pure. And so, just, like a genuine name of God is Allah. Okay. Allah Akbar means God is great. Allah Akbar really means Param Brahma. Param Brahma. That's really the Sanskrit. Okay. If someone's doing Allah Akbar while committing the most heinous, terrible atrocities, well, then it gives Allah a bad name. But Allah, the name of God, is always pure. The name of God is always pure. how purely are we representing our practice of chanting the name of God? That's an important consideration.
Something that comes to mind as you say that is, during one of your talks, something was said along the lines of like, sin is what alienates us from ourselves.
Yes.
And I just think of like growing up and being exposed to like Catholicism, being exposed to some other like sects of Christianity. When I would observe the people and their behavior towards one another, I thought this isn't it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it alienated me from God in
Yeah.
observation of those things. So anyway.
Thanks for that. Yeah. I read a quote that I heard attributed to Saint Augustine, that we're not punished for sin. We're punished by sin. Right? And sin there, it's defined as anything I do, think, or say that alienates me from my highest integrity. That distances me from authentic self-realization and connection with self and God. Okay, and whether it's some external thing that we would typically think of sin, or scrolling on the internet in a mindless way, anything that alienates me, that's sin. Okay, and what is truly virtuous and truly good is any communication, action, thought, habit that supports the self to turn towards itself, and self-awareness, and to turn towards God in a spirit of devotion. So when I could use I statements, when I do something that is alienating me from me, whether it's sleeping too much or eating too much or losing control of my anger or mindless stuff on the internet, it's not like, oh, you'll be punished for that. No, we're punished by sin, because then I feel shame. I feel disconnection. I feel alienation. I feel, then I'm experiencing fear and insecurity. So it's like the GPS analogy. We have a goal, self-realization, full love of God. So when we're going off, then okay, there's a signal. Okay, so then that shame, that alienation, that's meant to like wake me up. Oh, I've gone off track. Mm. Mm. Yes. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita ki.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.